There was a time when rest actually worked. At the end of the day, you sat down in a familiar chair. The house was quiet. Nothing special was happening, and still, something inside you eased. Your body knew that moment. It knew how to let go, but slowly, almost without noticing, that stopped happening. Now you rest. You lie down. You sleep through the night. And yet, when morning comes, the tiredness is already there. Not sharp, not dramatic, just present. It's the kind of tiredness that doesn't alarm anyone, including you. So you don't make much of it. You tell yourself you're fine. You've lived long enough to know how to carry things quietly. Still, something feels different. Rest used to reach you. Now it stops somewhere on the surface. If you've noticed this even once, this space is for you. Nothing here needs fixing. Nothing needs to be solved. We're only noticing what the body may still be holding. Long after life asked it to stay strong, let's stay with that for a moment. At first, the tiredness feels temporary. You expect it to pass. You think of a long week, a few short nights, the kind of tiredness you've known before. So you do what has always helped. You rest more. You slow things down when you can. Maybe you sit a little longer in the morning. Maybe you go to bed earlier at night, but something feels different. The tiredness doesn't fade. It doesn't deepen. Either it simply stays. You wake up with it already present, not heavy enough to stop you, not sharp enough to worry anyone. It follows you quietly. You move through the day. You do what needs to be done. You hold conversations. You make small decisions. From the outside, everything looks fine. From the inside, it feels heavier than it should. That's where the confusion begins, because there's no clear reason, nothing obvious to point to, no single moment where it all went wrong. So, you don't talk about it much. You've lived long enough to know how to carry things without complaint. You've learned how to stay composed, and over time, that composure becomes a habit. Here is what often goes unnoticed. This kind of tiredness is not only about sleep. It's not just about energy. It's the fatigue that comes from holding yourself together for a long time, from adapting, from staying steady when life kept changing. That effort doesn't disappear. It settles quietly in the body. The small lesson here is gentle. When tiredness lingers without explanation, it may not be asking to be solved. It may be asking to be recognized. Because this tiredness didn't arrive suddenly. It has been carried, little by little. And in the next part, we'll look more closely at what the body may still be holding, even now. Sometimes the tiredness is not coming from today. It's coming from much earlier. The body remembers more than we realize it. Remembers without words. It remembers the years when slowing down wasn't possible, when staying steady mattered more than how you felt inside. You may not think about those years much now. Life moved forward. Things changed. But the body didn't mark the ending. You can notice this in simple moments. You sit down, but never fully settle. You lie in bed, but the muscles stay slightly alert. Your breathing stays shallow. Even when the room is quiet and nothing is wrong, the mind says, "I'm safe now." The body hesitates. This doesn't mean anything is broken. It means something learned to stay ready for a long time. Your body practiced holding responsibility, holding emotion, holding yourself together when life asked a lot of you. That way of living was useful. It helped you manage. It helped you endure. But the body kept that posture, even after the pressure eased. So when you rest today, the body doesn't fully recognize it. Not because rest is wrong, but because holding became familiar. Here is the small lesson to notice. The body doesn't release on command. It releases when it feels allowed. And sometimes, what looks like tiredness is really the effort of still holding on. Understanding this changes the tone. The tiredness becomes less confusing, less personal, less like a failure, because it didn't come from nowhere. It was carried quietly over time. And in the next part, we'll look at the quiet cost of always staying composed, and how that habit can remain long after it's no longer needed. For many years, staying composed was a strength. You learned how to keep your tone steady, how to listen without reacting, how to move conversations forward. Even when you felt tired inside, people trusted you for that. They may still do. You became someone reliable, someone who didn't bring extra weight into the room. Over time, this way of being became familiar. You stay calm on the phone. You stay measured in family conversations. You finish the day without drama. From the outside, this looks like balance. From the inside, it takes work. You may notice it afterward, after a long conversation. You feel drained, even though nothing emotional was said. At night, your body feels tight, as if it never fully stood down. You rest, but something inside is still holding itself upright. This is the quiet cost of always staying composed, not because composure is wrong, but because it was rarely optional for a long time. You didn't have the space to soften when you needed to, so the body learnt to maintain calm, to stay regulated, to stay fine. Here is the small lesson to notice. Composure is useful, but when it becomes constant, the body keeps working even when nothing is happening. That effort often goes unseen, unacknowledged, until tiredness appears. This doesn't mean anything needs to change right now. It simply helps explain why rest sometimes feels shallow when the body is always maintaining balance. It doesn't fully settle, and that opens the door to something else. There is another kind of rest, one that doesn't come from stopping or sleeping, but from no longer needing to hold yourself together. In the next part, we'll move gently into that space and look at this different kind of rest and why it can feel unfamiliar at first. There is a kind of rest most of us were never taught. It doesn't come from stopping earlier, it doesn't come from sleeping longer, and it doesn't come from trying to relax. This kind of rest feels unfamiliar because it doesn't begin on the surface. You may notice it unexpectedly. You're sitting quietly, not because you plan to rest, but because nothing is asking for you right now. No role to play, no answer to prepare, no reason to stay composed. And for a brief moment, the body softens, not deeply, not completely, just enough to be noticed. This is a different kind of rest. It appears when the body is no longer bracing, when it doesn't need to stay alert, when it senses that nothing is required. You might feel it while looking out a window, while washing a cup in the sink, while sitting in the car before going inside. Nothing special is happening, and that's what allows it. This rest doesn't restore by adding something new. It restores by removing effort, the effort of holding, yourself together, the effort of staying, calm, the effort of being fine. Here is the small lesson to notice. Rest reaches deeper when the body no longer feels watched or managed or adjusted, when it's allowed to be exactly as it is. This kind of rest can't be created. It arrives quietly, when the body feels permission, not pressure. And over time, these moments matter. They don't fix life. They don't change everything, but they teach the body that it doesn't have to hold all the time. As we move toward the final part, there's nothing to conclude. We'll simply stay with this quiet shift and let the body finish in its own way. There is nothing more to figure out here, nothing to organize, nothing to complete. For once, the body doesn't need to be guided. It doesn't need to be improved, or encouraged, or explained. It only needs to be allowed. You may notice, as things grow quieter, that the body already knows how to settle in its own time. Not perfectly, not forever, just enough for this moment. Breathing finds its own pace. Muscles release a little. Attention softens. Nothing dramatic happens. And nothing needs to. This is what it looks like when the body is not being managed, when it is not being asked to stay strong, or stay composed, or stay ready. It's simply here. This space you've been in is what we share on Wisdom Quiet, a place for slowing down and listening gently. If this moment felt meaningful to you, you're welcome to like the video or subscribe to the channel, so we can meet again in quiet ways. You may also share it with someone who might need this kind of rest. And if you feel like it, you can leave a comment below, not to explain, just to be heard as this moment comes to a close. There's nothing to take with you, only a quiet knowing that rest does not always come from doing more or understanding more. Sometimes it comes from letting the body be exactly as it is, and letting that be enough.